Welcome to Touchline Talk by Soccerspective. Little different setup over the holidays, recording this from my home instead of the studio. But Touchline Talk, we dive into the tactical brilliance of the greatest games managers. And I'm your host, Brandon Faust, and today we're focusing on Pep Guardiola, arguably the most influential manager of the modern era. And while Pep's Manchester City have reached historic heights with the treble, with 5 out of 6 Premier Leagues, recent form shows that even the best managers aren't immune to struggles, as they struggled again here on Boxing Day with a 1-1 draw to the lowly Everton. All respect to Everton, but usually the last few seasons sitting at the bottom of the table. So shock draw, shock result once again for Manchester City. We'll get into kind of the fall and the demise of Manchester City, which has been an epic all-time meltdown. But let's talk about Guardiola. Pep Guardiola's managerial journey has redefined football from his early days at Barcelona with the revolutionary tiki-taka system to his time at Bayern Munich, which often gets forgotten and the success he had there, and now to Manchester City. In Barcelona, Pep's philosophy centered on positional play, dominating possession, utilized players like Xavi, Iniesta, Messi to create fluid attacking systems and just won everything. Bayern Munich, he adapted his philosophy, emphasizing verticality, high pressing. And then Manchester City, since 2016, Pep has built one of the most dominant teams in English football history, integrating new tactical ideas like inverted fullbacks and a hybrid 3-2-4-1 type system. He always finds a way. He always finds a way to press on for more and more success. He's had 5 Premier League titles in 6 seasons. Won the historic treble in 22-23 with Champions League, Premier League, FA Cup. Manchester City has been synonymous with tactical innovation under Guardiola. And in previous years, it seemed like Pep relied on his fullbacks, pressing high up the pitch, disrupting opposition wingers, and cutting off counterattacks early. And the fullbacks would provide aggressive width and supported the press. But Rodri, which is key, the Ballon d'Or winner, has been the defensive glue, and he's injured. He's out for the season. And he would cover a lot of lateral spaces in defense, central spaces seamlessly, drop back onto the back line if he needed to. The center backs could focus on maintaining a compact shape, and Rodri would give them this positional flexibility with his ability on the ball, but also off the ball. And this system allowed City to dominate possession while neutralizing counter attacks from the opponent effectively. And recently, City, they might set up in different ways. You might just see them set up like a 4-3-3 or something. But City will adjust to a back 3 structure while they're in attack. Usually one of the wing backs will slot in, or the outside backs will slot in with the 2 center backs. And it stretches their defensive shape pretty wide. They've been stretching it out a little bit. And without Rodri, the midfield lacks that lateral coverage required to protect the gaps when they attack and possess in this way. And so on December 26th, Boxing Day, they played Everton to a 1-1 draw near the bottom of the table, Everton. So huge result for Everton. And in this match, we see early on, it looks like Man City's going to take the game, just play their style, do what they do or what they used to do before this recent dip in form. Bernardo Silva has a fantastic goal. Here we see a slow build-up. We see great wing play from Doku, and then it gets the ball to Silva for a goal. Classic City. City's back, right? Well, not so fast. Everton, we see here, they miss this chance to score, but they hit City on the counter. There's a big ball switch. Numbers are forward, and again start showing City's transitioning from attack into defense. There's a lot of vulnerabilities there. A lot of vulnerabilities. Another one here, we see Man City has 3 defenders, and not one of them closes the attacking player Decore down. And this was after a poor clearance by Nathan Ake, which allowed Everton to get the ball back. But no one really chooses to close down Decore. It's like three players. They're like, are you going? Am I going? And then the ball's played into Njai with a great finish. Again, it's another reminder of Manchester City's woes at the back and then central defensive mid positions. Here we see Nunez on a great run, incisive 1v1, which we've seen particularly from Doku, Silvinho, and Nunez, which has its positives. Here's a positive here, but often these players get caught and they don't have the chops in defense to handle or slow down the counterattacks. But here, an incisive 1v1 beats his defender. He's dragged down in the box, and Erling Haaland, this is a sure thing, right? Wrong. Pickford saves a fairly poor penalty by Erling Haaland. And what we see as the match goes on is, again, Everton is on the break again. They had 2 or 3 chances like this at the end of the game where they get on a break, they have an opportunity, and just can't seem to finish it off. And Manchester City's defensive and tactical woes are exposed once again. So there's a lot of challenges recently with how Pep wants to play. Now, you could say, yes, Manchester City has all kinds of wealth, which they do. They have all kinds of talent, which they do. They do have some injuries, but also they've sold a lot of players who were, Cole Palmer, sold, even guys that you maybe haven't heard of, Darko Jaby, who's not on their roster, players like that. And it's left them a little thin. They don't have any seemingly youth players breaking through right now. Kevin De Bruyne is looking old. Gundogan is looking old. And so there's challenges. These wingers and wingbacks often get pinned, leaving Manchester City vulnerable in transitions. And opponents now wait for City to commit numbers forward and then exploit the space left behind during counters. They like to get numbers up. They like to possess. But the quality of possession and the type of players, Grealish isn't playing, I think I saw a stat, something like 35% of the available minutes. And so the quality just isn't there. Center backs are frequently pulled out of position, exposing vulnerabilities in the defensive line. We even saw that on the Everton goal, where it's indecision of who's to go where. So Rodri's injury, it's been a critical blow to City's midfield dynamics. Here's why. Defensive coverage, Rodri's ability, he's an athletic freak, to cover lateral spaces made him indispensable in breaking up opposition attacks and in shielding the back line. Passing range, Rodri could break lines with long, incisive passes, transitioning City from defense to attack very effortlessly. And then tactical awareness. His positional intelligence ensured City's shape remained balanced even in transitions. In contrast, Mateo Kovacic, who's a fantastic player, Croatian international. I mean, he played in big moments, big matches, had a great run in the Premier League with Chelsea as well. While he's very skilled, he's a very different profile. Kovacic excels in short passing combinations and dribbling. He actually likes to take players 1v1, but by the time he does that, it kind of slows that ability for City to push forward and get numbers forward. Limitations, he lacks Rodri's defensive coverage. So do most players in that position. This is a Ballon d'Or winner. And the long passing ability. And it forces City into slower build-up play and makes them more predictable. It makes it hard for them to break down the opponent. Without a secondary pivot player, City struggles to control midfield transitions effectively, and it makes you think, what could be different if Calvin Phillips' form didn't fall off the face of the earth completely? Now, he's out on loan again at Ipswich, but he was England Player of the Year in 2021. As a Leeds fan, he was fantastic. He was fantastic, even in the Premier League with Leeds. But, he hasn't been able to find form. He's had a lot of injury crisis, but he's not even at City. And that's the kind of player that they'd need. They'd still have a drop-off from Rodri to Calvin Phillips, but it wouldn't be as significant if this was Phillips of 21 or even the form of Calvin Phillips in 2022. Now, the struggles aren't just in that central defensive mid position, although that is a key linchpin that helps City to go, which we're finding out. There's been struggles in attack as well. There's 1v1 specialists. So Savinho and Doku have been brought in. Doku a couple years ago and Savinho just this past season. They excel in taking on defenders, but they often, with those kind of flashy 1v1 type players, you are going to win some and you're going to lose some. We saw in the Everton match, Doku beat his player, played Bernardo Silva in, goal. But they're often going to lose possession trying to create opportunities. And so that gets them caught, when they can't do that. Service to Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland is still putting some goals away, not like the clip of last season, or the last 2 seasons, but he's frequently isolated as wingers look for individual duels rather than combining in the build-up with him. And then the wing backs have a dilemma. Those outside backs getting stuck in deeper positions. City struggles to maintain attacking fluidity because they can't transition as quickly as they used to with somebody like Rodri in there. So there's problems going on in the attack. And I know that Kevin De Bruyne has been, injured here and there and he's getting older. But you can just see, sometimes it looks like Haaland's up there on his own and unable to get service. And when you can't get a player of his caliber or finishing quality service, it's hard for him to get involved in the match. And it's hard for them to get goals on the board. Opponents have adapted well to City's current setup as well. They know that City are hurting and they're trying to exploit them. They're looking at the recipe because there's actually, several matches in a row now of evidence where City are struggling. They allow City to push numbers forward, then hit them quickly on the counter with a long ball, exploiting the gaps in midfield and wide areas. The lack of Rodri's presence exacerbates City's vulnerability to these quick transitions. It's crazy to think with a team and a squad with so many big names that one player could kind of hold it all together for them, which we're finding out. And so I think this is an important time to think through if you're a fan or if you're a coach, especially if you're one as a fan, we can get obsessed with goals and assists. But a player like Rodri can really make things go. Calvin Phillips did this when Leeds won the championship and earned promotion in the 2019-2020 season. You see players like Rodri who hold it all together. You can think of back in those days, Claude Makelele was thought of as that. N'Golo Kante was that for Chelsea and Leicester City when they won the title. And so as a fan, you have to understand the integrity and the pressure that's put on all the players that allow players like an Erling Haaland to shine, right? And with Rodri out, they just don't have a true like-for-like replacement, which is causing all kinds of problems. So adapting, if you're a coach, adapting to player absences, even at a young age, you might have a kid who, they're still a kid. They're going to a birthday party and missing a match, or they're out of town. They're on vacation, or they're sick, or they're hurt, or whatever it might be. Especially at those younger ages, building depth and tactical flexibility within your squad is really important, and making sure that we're developing the whole player. So if a kid is really good at finishing, we don't know what they're going to be at age 11 or 12. We don't know what they're going to be at age 15 or 16. So give them opportunities and reps. Yes, have their primary position, but then have that secondary position. So we don't just pigeonhole them into one position. We want the whole player, them to develop as soccer players, not just as a striker, not just as a winger, but develop as a player. And so on the teams that I've coached and clubs and other squads I've been a part of, we like to implement, everyone has a central position that they play and a wide position that they learn to play, or vice versa, right? Their primary position might be out wide. Then we want them to have a central position they can play. Example would be if you have a number 9 striker, great finisher, we also want that player to rotate, whether it's in a match we're up a lot, down a lot, whatever it might be, to learn how to play right back or right wing, an inside position and outside position. If a player's primary position is left back, we want them to learn how to play center midfield or center back. And so just having that variance in ability, because you even see on some of these teams over the years, especially Pep's done this quite a bit. I think we just saw Nunez recently. Now, it did not go great for him, but playing like left back. You're going to have players that have to learn to play out of position. We've seen John Stones, known to be a center back, right? Step into that central midfield match in some or position in some really big, important matches. And so you may even see it at times, that kind of positional flexibility that certain players can give you. So what's next for Pep and Manchester City? Manchester City struggles are a reminder that no team is invincible, that there's a reason why you play the matches, that you don't just have what lineup is better on paper. Pep's adaptability and tactical genius suggests that they're going to bounce back, but it hasn't happened yet. This poor run of form is one of the most epic collapses we've seen in the Premier League. And these last couple of months have been absolutely brutal. And so, will they pull out of it? It's hard to say. Pep seems like a manager who's done everything, won everything. His style definitely works. But right now, with the players that they have, it seems like there's some adjustments that need to be made. He is one of those kind of unsackable type managers, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the weeks ahead. Some future challenges: the reintegration of Rodri and De Bruyne. I mean, Rodri's out for a long time. KDB can't seem to stay healthy, can't seem to get 60 minutes even under his legs. So that'll be interesting. Finding solutions to Erling Haaland's isolation. Are there ways to get him involved? He is kind of a limited player in some respects, not super creative on the ball. Fantastic finisher, one of the best finishers I've ever seen in and around the box. But how do they get him involved? And then adjusting tactics to counter new opposition strategies, right? Usually City can just play their way, boom, and it happens, and they get the result. They have not been getting the result. So how can they prevent getting hit on the counter? What needs to change in their play style with the players available to them? So Pep Guardiola remains a tactical mastermind, but this period of adversity could define his legacy even further. As coaches, there's much more to learn from how Pep navigates these challenges. Does he stay with his principles? Does he adapt? Does he adjust? How does he talk? How does he carry himself? And you can tell it's wearing on him. It's wearing on the club. And so we want to say stay tuned for more insights, and be sure to subscribe to our next episode of Touchline Talk. And you also want to check out Soccerspective Fan Zone with Jonathan. So be sure to subscribe to the Soccerspective YouTube channel, and make sure that you get all of the content fresh as we release it weekly, as well as other soccer-related videos. We'll see you next time. Thank you, and happy holidays from Soccerspective.